Now, the job structure, that is the organizational structure, the hierarchical methods that have been followed by the organization are also pretty much the same. There are two different categories of skills we're going to talk about. One is the managerial, the other one is the technical skill. But then, if you want to exactly match the organization, you cannot give up on learning and development. You need to learn and you need to develop on a consistent basis. Good morning and welcome to the second session in Unit 1, third semester Organizational Behavior for B.Ba, where we are going to talk about the challenges and opportunities in organizational behavior. Now, as we move here, we need to understand what are the challenges that anybody could face as a part of organization behavior. Why? Because when we are presenting human beings to the organization, we seem to come across lot of changes, lot of challenges and lot of questions that needs to be answered in order to improve the productivity. Now, any human being who joins the company would not just accept the rules, the norms and the regulations. He would definitely like to seek a unique space for himself. So that's where this organization behavior takes a deep dive in terms of understanding and addressing the challenges that is available in the organization. Now let's look into here where we start talking about the organizational behavior are massive and rapidly changing to improve productivity, meeting business goal. The top management of an organization presents a goal to the organization, to the team, to the members, saying that we need to achieve an X amount of growth within the next financial year. The moment you give a goal, you give a direction to the team, automatically there is a set of enthusiasm, there is a set of adrenaline rush that comes in among the employees because they feel that they need to achieve, they need to grow, they need to get their incentives and they need to move forward. Now, when we talk about this entire dramatic situation that's going on in organization, the problems will also come from different directions. Now, that's where we say that though the organizations have solution over ages have not changed, the emphasis and surrounding environmental context have certainly changed. Now, whatever might be the situation, organizations have always found a solution to handle that particular situation, that particular environment. But then now if you look into the context of organization, with the digital revolution that silently set in post 2000, we have changed the environment drastically and we see that the environment is now facing a lot of challenges in the last particular years altogether. Followed by which the resulting lean and mean organization offered some short-run benefits in the term of lowered cost, improved productivity, and they continue to do business as usual, but they will not be able to meet the current or future challenges. Many people in the organization used to believe by giving incentives, especially in the form of monetary benefits, I can make my employee do what I want. I can make my employee run that extra mile. But then, now the context is shifting. Why? Because if you start seeing here, organizational behavior is not just about understanding benefits. It's not just about talking money in terms of rupees or dollars. It's more about understanding the emotions of each and every employee who is stuck inside the organization. They feel that there is a scary time for the manager that's coming up from the Harvard Business Review, which says that the singular reason given for these frightening times is the increasing danger of disruptive change. Now, the change that is setting inside organization is not a positive, but that is a dangerous one. Why? Because it is trying to make the employees aggressive. It's trying to make the employees go beyond the norms and they are asking for benefits which the organization has never felt in their history. So let's go ahead and understand these challenges in depth. Now let's start understanding the nature of work and the job structure itself. The nature of work that is being defined by an organization might be pretty simple or rather rhetoric in nature, so that most of the people who take up that role, they know that this is what we are going to do and this is what I have been doing for so many years. Now, the job structure, that is the organizational structure, the hierarchical methods that are being followed by the organization are also pretty much the same. But what happens over a period of time is that either you get bored with the structure and with the organizational goals that you want to leave, and you're not happy in terms of delivering your performance. Somewhere you get demotivated, you get distracted, you want to move away from the regular shackles of the organization. But then the challenge that comes for any manager here is that how am I going to keep my people motivated? How am I going to improve my quality and productivity? What is the total quality management? And not to forget the workforce diversity, which is becoming the central theme of any organization today. Now, when we look into all this pictures, all the sectors that we have been talking about, the most important thing is the motivation with diversity. Now, you have a set of people who come from diverse background, different religion, caste, creed, color, gender, all that put together, and you have a different set of expectations that comes from that people. Now, the most important and interesting is that you cannot use a carrot and stick principle. You cannot go by the thumb rule, or neither you can just write it down and say on a piece of paper that this is what you are intended to do. You need to understand each and everybody in a singular manner, in an intellectual manner, trying to decipher this factor that how that person can fit into the job and how he can give the right performance at the right time. So that's exactly where we are getting into improving of people skill, improving the quality and the delivery levels altogether. So this is definitely a very big challenge when you are looking into the field of OB. Followed by which, when you start looking into organizations today, what are the opportunities that is coming up? One is the globalization, which is actually driving the major parts of the organization, empowering people, coping up with that temporary aspect, which we are going to talk about, innovation and change, which has always been the constant factor, e-commerce, e-organization, ethical behavior, customer service, and then we talk about work-life balance and conflicts, which is coming up, and this word called as the flattening world altogether. Now, when you look through all these emerging factors which are threatening the organization structure as well as the leaders who are quite confused, what would be the one-stop solution through which I can handle this situation? Now, let's start first looking into globalization. All of us know that when the globalization era, the wave started hitting India post 1991, the Indian dynamics in terms of organization, approach and growth started becoming completely different. With the rise of private organizations overtaking the market, trying to build up the capital structure altogether, today we have a team, today we have a set of organizations which are considered to be world-class at any given point of time. Now, what has happened because of that? The demands, the needs, and the delivery structure has also gone up several hundred times altogether. We need to empower people. Now, that's the most important thing that globalization is actually bringing in. Earlier, it was the organization that used to dictate, but it's now the people who are dictating terms to the organization. Followed by that temporary factor. Today, I am not going to write my entire life term to one organization. I'm not going to sit back and say this, that I am completely in debt to one organization for lifetime. Now, I'm going to be a person who's going to seek different career opportunities at any given point of time. So that temporary factor, the many a time you recruit a person, the next 1 year you find that the person has left the organization. Next, innovation and change. People want that. People don't want to look into the same four white walls of the organization, the same name board for 10 years, or they do not want to listen to the same tagline that has been told a decade back. What they want is innovation, they want change, they want the organization to grow and also make them grow. That's very important for all of us to understand here. Now, the ethical behavior and rise of e-commerce. With Amazon, Flipkart, or probably like when you talk about Myntra, Ajio, PhonePe, Paytm, Cred, so many examples which I can give you in terms of the e-commerce organizations coming into picture. What has been the most significant factor here is that the culture, the diversity, the approach towards work is completely changed. So one side, when we are talking about behavior, the other side, you're also talking about freedom. You need to give the organization and the people the space to grow with, and that's where you can improve your customer service. That's where you can help the employees to balance work and life altogether. And the most important thing is that if we have believed in the rule of physics, in the rule of science, which used to say that Earth is oval shaped, Earth is spherical in nature, all those laws and rules of the science that have been spoken about, well, that can be proved wrong in the field of management. Why? Because we believe that the world has completely flattened out. The world has become one single common map where you would see it's a plain ground. Now, anybody can play on that ground with their own strategies and can completely customize the world dynamics according to them. So the world is now allowing companies to bring in change, to experiment, and to deliver what is needed for the organization and for the people. So we are not going to say that the world is going to be that round factor. The world is a flattened structure with increased competitiveness, and the magnitude at which we are interacting, at which we are trying to compete against each other is many-fold. So with all these things, OB is trying to become even more challenging, even more interesting. So let's just continue further in terms of understanding how we are going to improve our people skills. Now, one is the technology factor. The second is the structural change, followed by this factor called as the acceleration in terms of the environment that you're going to see. Now, one side, people were actually averse about this factor called as technology. Why? Because they believed that technology was only for the people who were in the field of computer science, in the field of information technology. But today, technology has become a vertical factor in the organization. Rather, I would say a more of a horizontal phase. It covers every single dynamics, followed by the structural changes. So the environment is also changing. So unless the employees and executives are equipped with the required skills to address, and they have the adaptation to all the changes that is happening around them, this cannot be achieved over a period of time. There are two different categories of skills we're going to talk about. One is the managerial, the other one is the technical skill. Now let's just go ahead and start talking about those skills here. Now, some of the skills that include listening, motivating, planning, organization, leading skills, problem solving, decision making skills. Now just look at the skill set for a moment. At no point of time I'm talking about those theoretical degrees, diplomas, or those certifications which could proudly add upon to your resume and say that, well, I'm qualified. No, I'm looking at skills which are more human-centric, which are emotion-driven, which have a lot of common sense inbuilt. Why? Because I'm talking about listening, motivation, planning, organization, leading, and decision-making skills, which involves a lot of thinking. Now, what has happened in the last few decades is that, specifically talking to the Indian context here, we just believed that we could produce graduates right out of a factory kind of an environment where you would see that people qualified with fancy degree titles. They just want to go and work in an organization and they feel it's a right for them because I've earned the degree, so automatically a company will hire me and give me that fancy title. The answer is definitely no. Why? Because today, organizations do not look into your qualification, they look into your skill set. So are you a problem solver? Are you a good decision maker? Are you a kind of person who can understand what is the change that is happening inside the organization? Are you a kind of person who can know what is going to be the next step that is needed? So to become a manager, you don't need to have an MBA. But to become a manager, you need to have the common sense, you need to have the people sense, and you need to have the problem-solving skills. That is what making you a good manager in the future. Followed by which, enhanced by organization series of training and development programs. Sometime back, we believed that once you have qualified, and that's the end of your studies, all you have to do is that you join the organization from day one, you start working hard, and then you become a qualified person altogether, and then you say, I'm an experienced professional. But the dynamics are again changing. Why? Because you need to unlearn many things before you start learning. Now that's exactly where I'm trying to bring in this change factor. The unlearning is going to make you learn a lot of things in future. If you don't unlearn, you cannot learn. That's what the organizations today are pointing out. You might have qualified, you might have expertise in a particular line of academic discipline that we are talking about. But then, if you want to exactly match the organization, you cannot give up on learning and development. You need to learn and you need to develop on a consistent basis. Followed by which the quality and productivity. Now, for example, here, let me just come straight where we are talking about an automobile experience on expectations. Now, what will happen here is that whenever you go into an automobile shop, the customer has got a whole lot of questions that he wants to ask to the staff out there. The staff might feel that, well, that is not my job. My job is only selling the car, and afterwards, please don't ask me how does the car move, whether it takes a left or right. But then the answer is wrong here. Why? Because once the customer starts getting into you in terms of the product, you need to know everything. You need to deliver way beyond the expectations. So that's where you need to tell the customer the usage value, how you need to use it, what are the pros and cons of the product, and then only it is possible for you to take it forward. So sometimes you might feel that the customer's expectation might not have been so simple to meet, but then it becomes mandatory for a customer to get completely satisfied. So that service staff has to take an extra step, learn about the queries and solve the customer's request at the earliest as far as possible. Now, the other thing is performance that comes into picture. So every product, every process is now performance driven. The features that you need to know how that is working, what are all the things. The conformance, when I'm going to talk about the conformance, that's about the standards to which you agree, the degree, the level to which you agree on the operating standards. Now, followed by which, when we continue with the standards, we also talk about reliability, durability and services. These are all the segments and standards that comes in terms of improving the quality and productivity of an employee. And we also talk about response and reputation. Many a time it's so important that when a customer comes with a query in his mind, there is something called as a turnaround time. When I say the word turnaround time, am I able to get the response within that stipulated time? That's what is the response. And the reputation. Why? Because if you have maintained a past record of serving the customer at the best level possible, then automatically your organization will also have a standard reputation here. So that's why response and reputation are mandatory. Now, we also talk about more and more managers trying to come in terms of increasing the productivity, implementing programs like total quality management, re-engineering programs, so that these are all the factors of reinforcing good behavior so that you can serve the customer at any given point of time. Now, this is where I come to the end of this program, end of this particular session altogether, where I believe that all the theoretical factors that have been spoken here will be of great benefit both from the theory as well as from the practical walk of life. In the upcoming sessions, we will be learning about the new concepts of OB. But until then, stay tuned and stay blessed. Thank you for joining me on this session again.